The abandoned building stood like a skeletal sentinel, its walls cracked and worn by the relentless winds that howled through the desolate streets of Blackwood. The once bright sign creaked in the gusts, now a faded reminder of a long-forgotten past. A lone streetlight cast an eerie glow on the walls, like a mournful eye watching over the decaying structure. As night descended, the silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant hum of a generator and the soft crackle of static emanating from the old radio station within. The building's windows, like empty eye sockets, stared out onto the deserted streets, where nothing seemed to move but the shadows. A chill ran down the spines of those who dared to venture near. The air was heavy with the scent of decay and neglect, and the wind carried the faint whisper of forgotten songs and forgotten lives. In the darkness, the abandoned radio station loomed, a haunted relic of a bygone era, its presence both fascinating and terrifying. Those who approached felt an overwhelming urge to turn back, but the lure of the mysterious signal was too great to resist. I stood outside the creaking entrance, my heart pounding in my chest as I gazed up at the faded sign. WLBS, 98.7 FM, it read, the letters barely legible in the fading light. According to local legend, WLBS was the last radio station to broadcast from Blackwood, its signal cutting out abruptly one fateful night in 1995. Some said it was a freak storm that knocked out the transmitter, while others whispered of darker forces at play. As I pushed open the creaking door, a faint hum of electricity filled the air, and the static from the radio grew louder. I stepped inside, my eyes adjusting to the dim light within. The studio was a mess of old equipment and discarded papers, the walls covered in cobweb-shrouded soundproofing panels. In the center of the room, a single console stood, its dials and buttons glowing with an otherworldly light. I approached the console cautiously, my fingers hovering over the dials as I searched for the source of the signal. The static grew louder, a maddening buzz that seemed to come from all directions at once. I spun the dials, trying to pinpoint the frequency, but it was like trying to grasp a handful of sand, the signal seemed to slip through my fingers every time. As I worked, the lights in the studio began to flicker, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air grew colder, and I could have sworn I heard a faint whisper on the wind, a voice calling out to me from the darkness. I spun around, but there was no one there. Suddenly, the console lurched to life, spewing a torrent of static and white noise into the air. I stumbled back, my ears ringing from the cacophony. The signal grew stronger, a pulsing beat that seemed to reverberate through every cell in my body. I grabbed the mic, my voice shaking as I spoke into the void. "Is anyone there?" I shouted, but my words were lost in the din of the static. The signal seemed to grow stronger, a presence building in the studio like a living, breathing entity. The lights began to strobe wildly, casting a maddening pattern of shadows on the walls. I felt a presence closing in around me, a malevolent force that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the signal. I tried to flee, but my feet seemed rooted to the spot. As the signal reached a fever pitch, the lights went out, plunging the studio into darkness. I was surrounded by an oppressive silence, the only sound the soft hum of the generator and the heavy, labored breathing of something. And then, in the darkness, I heard the voice. "Welcome to WLBS," it said, the words dripping with malevolence. "We've been waiting for you."